There wasn't much to expect from the Miami Grand Prix. Ferrari gave it their all, and the result reflects a car that simply refuses to work properly. We are talking about a 7th place for Charles Leclerc, 8th for Lewis Hamilton. It is time to move on from this Grand Prix, which once again disappointed, while waiting for aerodynamic updates to make the leap in quality. For now, let's take a detailed look at how events unfolded for Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton at the Miami International Autodrome in Florida. In Miami, the rain gives a brief respite. A dry race is expected, although the sky is threatened by dark clouds. Everything is prepared, and the start of the formation lap is awaited. Lewis Hamilton chooses the hard tires in an attempt to extend the first stint as much as possible, taking advantage of the early stops of those ahead to run in clean air. Charles Leclerc, on the other hand, will start on mediums. Both Ferrari drivers work their tires quite a bit, particularly the Briton. The start is managed without issues. There is some jostling, but the Ferrari cars maintain their positions. On lap 3, the virtual safety car is deployed due to a crash by Jack Doohan into the barriers. On lap 5, the restart is authorized after the Alpine is removed by the marshals. Lewis Hamilton makes a strong restart, taking 11th position from Isaac Hadjar. Charles Leclerc's car is also seen struggling with rotation due to the tires not being fully activated yet. After a couple more laps, the situation improves. The Maranello engineers work hard to suggest optimal differential settings to improve the car's rotation. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc raises concerns over vibrations felt at the front end under braking. It is interesting to note how much traction the Monegasque loses to Alex Albon's Williams ahead of him, although he makes up the gap on straights and under braking. A train of cars consisting of George Russell, Carlos Sainz, and Alex Albon is found ahead of Charles Leclerc. Additionally, some lift and coast phases are carried out, presumably to save fuel. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton closes in on Esteban Ocon's Haas and may attempt an overtake. Strategies begin to be discussed. While tire degradation remains as expected, a rain forecast is made for roughly 10 laps ahead. A team radio from Charles Leclerc is broadcast and gives pause for thought. The only parts of the track where I feel comfortable are turns 4, 5, 6, 7, elsewhere I'm slow. A clear message from the Monegasque showing how compromised his car is, so much so that he can't even close in on the two Williams cars. Lewis Hamilton experiences a similar situation, fighting the steering wheel and unable to get close to Esteban Ocon's slipstream. Both Ferrari cars appear notably slow. It should also be noted how both drivers require more input from the pit wall, hoping for helpful guidance to improve the car's drivability. After numerous attempts, the 7-time Formula One world champion finally overtakes the Haas, a move that took considerable effort. By mid-race, no improvement is recorded in the SF25's pace. Charles Leclerc complains of rear locking in mid-corner, while Lewis Hamilton reports insufficient rotation in the slower corners. In this context, rising frustration can be sensed in both Ferrari drivers. Numerous questions are put to the pit wall, but answers are often not immediately given. On lap 29, another virtual safety car is activated due to a problem with Oliver Behrman's car. Lewis Hamilton takes the opportunity to switch to mediums for his first stop, while his Maranello teammate makes the same decision the following lap, but opts for hards instead. During his pit stop, however, the virtual safety car is deactivated, preventing him from gaining position on Albon. A situation that raises questions. Was it simply bad luck or a call made too late? After both stops, the Ferrari cars are running in 8th and 9th place respectively. Soon after, the third virtual safety car of the Miami Grand Prix is caused by an engine failure on Gabriel Bortoletto's car. On the restart, both SF25 cars show strong form, overtaking Carlos Sainz. A particularly good move comes from the Briton, who, taking advantage of the scrap between Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, dives inside and passes the former Ferrari driver. Now Ferrari holds 7th and 8th positions. At this point, the two Italian cars appear to show decent pace. Moreover, the Monegasque is matched in pace by Lewis Hamilton, who inexplicably is not let past by the pit wall. The Briton expresses his frustration over the radio, saying, "This is not good for the team." Eventually, the Maranello team gives in, and the swap is made at turn 17. Lewis takes 7th place. Charles doesn't complain, but does point out that it was a risky move, as Carlos Sainz was very close and could have capitalized. Bozzi calls for maximum effort for the final 8 laps. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton chases down Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes with determination, pushing to the limit. However, the task proves difficult. The 7-time Formula One world champion is quicker, but the 5-second gap seems too much to close. Nonetheless, the Briton steadily closes in, with Charles Leclerc right behind. Just about 3 seconds from Kimi Antonelli, there is no more pace to get by. As a result, Ferrari decides to return the position to Charles Leclerc, who retakes 7th place with 5 laps to go. The Monegasque tries to reach the Italian but can't. In Miami, Ferrari is only the 5th fastest team, and this result reflects the team's deep crisis. Updates are urgently needed because results like this are damaging. 57 seconds behind McLaren, with a gap partly affected by Ferrari's inability to fully take advantage of the virtual safety car during pit stops. Unlike the papaya-colored cars, a 7th and 8th place left little to be satisfied with. Several team radios hinted at growing frustration among the drivers, as the car once again failed to meet expectations in Miami. It was a disappointing weekend overall, despite Lewis Hamilton's podium in the wet sprint race on Saturday, a result attributed more to strategic calls than raw pace. Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur acknowledged after the race that the weekend offered few positives or moments of satisfaction. Only 2 weeks earlier, the Italian side had celebrated its first podium of the season with Charles Leclerc, a result influenced by Lando Norris's qualifying error. Still, the performance and relatively small gap at that event had left a more positive impression, possibly aided by a track better suited to the SF25's characteristics. Frédéric Vasseur told Sky that McLaren had been in a league of its own in Miami, noting that they were 30 seconds ahead of everyone else. Max Verstappen had tried to keep pace early on but ended up destroying his tires in the process. According to Frédéric Vasseur, Ferrari's pace was broadly in line with Mercedes and Red Bull, but McLaren was on another level, emphasized by the nearly 40 seconds they put on George Russell. Ferrari particularly struggled in the slower corners, where the SF25 was even outpaced by Haas and Williams over a single lap, an alarming indication of the work still required to achieve meaningful progress. Isolated strong performances, few and far between this season, were no longer sufficient. What was missing above all was consistent pace to challenge Red Bull and Mercedes round after round. Starting from further back, as happened in Miami, only made matters worse, increasing the risk of running in dirty air and degrading tires more quickly. Ferrari is fully aware that improving qualifying performance is a key step if they are to make real progress in the upcoming races. Nevertheless, despite the poor showing in Miami, Frédéric Vasseur remains convinced that the SF25 still has untapped potential. New developments will arrive in Imola, although it won't be a major package capable of turning the SF25's performance around. Fred Vasseur is still convinced that, while helpful, updates aren't the only key. There's still potential to be unlocked in the base package, especially regarding tire feel, which has often been lacking.